Talk Radio, TNT.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to TNT Radio. I'm Misty, and I am your host. Joining me for our second hour, we have a very good friend of mine, and he is the founder and editor of Independent Left News and Leftist.today. He's the co-host of How Did We Miss That? And the host of Friends of Indie Left, and the creator, founder, and a member of IndieNews.Network, which now has 18 total content creators in the network. So my friend, Indy, thank you for coming on. How are you doing?
Oh my God, Misty Winston, it is such a pleasure to be on your show. I'm so happy for you that you got a radio show, that you're here on this network, a censorship-free network, and appreciate you being inviting me on. Now, you were nervous before, Vanessa, and I was listening.
Yes.
And breathe Winston. How about breathe Indy? Okay, I'm going on Misty's show. I'm breathe Indy. Okay. So I'm great. I'm as nervous to be here as you were to be, to have Vanessa on. And I know Alex is going to be on next and love his work. And really pissed about what happened to Kit and Hardlands. I had an interview with him Saturday night, and they got their content strike for something silly about this Hunter Biden stuff.
He was literally just on this show yesterday talking about censorship. And then today I'm scrolling through my Twitter feed before I go live, and I see Hardlands Media has once again gotten a strike for doing nothing. All they did was cover the Hunter Biden laptop story. I mean, it's something that's being covered across mainstream media outlets right now. And they once again got an arbitrary ding from YouTube for nothing. And that is par for the course.
And they'll review it, and they'll probably get the thing back. But meanwhile, everybody's got to get spun out, and they have to do this how many times a year to everybody for what? I mean, it's just silly, the whole thing.
Well, and then so much time is spent trying to combat it and trying to, try to fight it and to appeal it, and then and so they're wasting time that they could be spending, on other stories and on other things. They have to waste this time now trying to fight with YouTube over something that they should have never been censored over. And so censorship pisses me off. It really does. I think everybody that knows me knows that it's like it's like my least favorite thing on planet Earth. I hate it. And this is, it's just getting really ridiculous. It's getting really ridiculous at this point.
I mean, it's happened to me and Reef, and we got censored off of Discord, and they didn't even tell us exactly why. They claimed misinformation, and that we were, not even that we necessarily spread it, but that we were connected to a server that was dedicated to spreading it, which, what? And no appeal, just absolutely
guilt by association.
Completely. And again, I was an admin for a server that got zapped and never came back. That would be the Convo Couch server. And I think Reef had either moderator or admin privileges as well. To set up bots. That's all we were doing, was setting up bots to bring in automated stories and stuff and automate the convo videos. But apparently that's a problem. So
see, I don't Discord, but I had always thought that Discord was fairly anti-censorship. I realized now somebody, I think maybe it was you, said that they went public, and it's all changed. Like they have different terms of service now and all of that stuff. So, we are very quickly running out of platforms that don't censor. Thank you. Shout out TNT Radio. Yay. Shout out TNT Radio. Yay. I very much appreciate the opportunity to be on a platform that doesn't censor. We're running out of those rapidly. It's disturbing.
100%. I mean, so that's one of the reasons, why we're on a ton of different platforms, diversification, but the Odyssey and Rumble, and we're working on getting on Rockfin now. But we're on, again, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. You pretty much name the platform except for TikTok, and we're there. And Pinterest. We're not on Pinterest either. But
I need to figure out TikTok, because that's where a lot of the kids hang out, the younger kids. And I feel like they're our best hope. And I hate putting that on them, but everybody else has screwed it up. So now it's on y'all. Sorry. But I feel like we need to, a lot of independent content creators need to get on TikTok and start using it effectively. Gordon Dimick does a great job on TikTok. He does really fantastic videos. I don't know. I'm going to have to ask my 11-year-old to explain TikTok to me, because I don't know how to do it.
He like stands in front of a screen and he's pointing up at the screen, and it's changing word. I have no idea how the hell he does all that stuff. It's just like, thinking about producing something like that, I get a headache. Seriously, I just make lists and I read articles and I share stuff. That's that's kind of how this whole thing developed. And that's
okay. But don't sell yourself short. Do not sell yourself short, because I want to talk to you about this, because you started Independent Left News and Leftist.today, which Independent Left News really okay. Why don't you talk about why you decided to start doing this, what it does, all of that. Tell us all about it, because I think it's an invaluable service.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So it's really funny because I made notes and I'm like, wow, this reads a lot more impressive than it actually is every day. But so I noticed, especially after Bernie got knifed, this started back in 2020 after the second primary, and how influential the media was at swaying the narrative in literally practically overnight fashion. I mean, we were dancing in the streets after the Nevada primary. We're going to DC. I'm booking my fucking tickets for the inauguration. We're going to have the first Jewish president ever. This is the greatest thing. He's going to fix. And there's going to be fights, and he's going to compromise, and we're going to get screwed. But at least, we're going to have our guy there, right? Yeah, no, not so much. With the flick of literally his finger, fling, and 2 phone calls, and a couple of Chris Matthews hysterics, and some CNN manipulation, and all of a sudden, the narrative about South Carolina, a red state that hasn't gone blue in 50 years, that decides all of a sudden who's winning the Democratic primary. I didn't understand it. It made no sense. And then again, Super Tuesday happens. Bernie wins California, and still he's losing. It's just my head exploded. And I said, it's the narrative management that's out of control, and it's corporate media that's doing it. So we've got to combat that and find the voices that are actually screaming against this and speaking truth against power, that aren't influenced by advertisers, that aren't influenced by big corporate and Wall Street, that aren't influenced by defense contractors and big pharma. And we've got to find those voices and put them all in one place, because right now they're all spread out. And so I just really, for my own sake, where can I find all this stuff in one place so that it was easy for me to find? So I called it Progressive News Daily, and initially it was shitlib stuff. It was TYT and Kyle Kalinske and Pacman and Majority Report, and it's all of them. Humanist Report. Yes. I covered the whole spectrum. Nomiki, but I did discover, and I stumbled upon the Convo Couch, and I stumbled upon Nico, and I stumbled upon Richard Medhurst. And the more I listened and the more I paid attention, the more I realized what was being sold, and that it was a faux progressivism, quote unquote. And after 6 months, I saw them ignore I saw them ignore the People's Party convention, so they weren't really about third parties. And I saw them ignore, most importantly, and the next thing was the Assange trial. So yes. And I really had not, and I've been trying to convince them and talk to them about Richard Medhurst. You guys need to talk to this guy all summer long for 2020. And they just didn't want to, they weren't hearing it. It was just reaching a brick wall. This was on TYT. I was at this point still a supporter, and it just turned me against them. The more that I saw, and when they ignored this trial, that was the biggest press freedom case of our lifetimes, where this guy is being persecuted like crazy, and you listen to the testimony that's going on here. How do you ignore that? I couldn't. So that was a big bellwether moment for me. But what motivates me is amplifying amazing people who get ignored by corporate media. That is the big thing. Again, and part of that is Jimmy Dore was a big part of that, and still is a big part of that, right? And again, now that they just keep pushing us further and further out, the people who actually advocate for freedom and for press freedom and for freedom of speech and for saying what's actually on your mind without. It's unreal. Well, the problem is whose truth? Everybody has their own truth, and that's right. That's what's killing us. Is everybody has their own version of what they think is the truth, and the lens and the bubble that they decide to get their media from that tells them what their truth is. And that's what's so frightening. That's why we're trying to crack this with independent media, with independent radio, talking to our friends about it. That was a big thing. Again, so back in September, right around the Assange thing, I said, what the hell is progressive? I'm not really progressive. I'm more independent, and I'm definitely to the left of of the progressives and to the Democrats. So that's how Independent Left came up. And then I actually created an LLC and decided, look, all these logos and all this content that I'm sharing, I guess it has some value, so I should probably protect it and make sure that somebody wants to sue me for something. At least I've got some kind of protection against that. So that was the only reason to set up a corporation. I don't make any money with it. I actually lose money, and I give more money to content creators every month than I ever have taken in. Nobody's ever given me a dime other than Patreon supporters, which I really appreciate. But really, I fund this myself, and I put in time and effort, and I just love it. And
you put in a lot of time and a lot of effort.
Yes.
Let's be real.
Yes, I do.
Yes. Yeah. No. And so basically what you do is you accumulate, different content from different creators. Right. And you have a newsletter that you put out that offers different video content, different articles. And it kind of just gives everybody like a one-stop shop for news, which I love because I have severe ADHD. I have a really hard time, staying focused, especially if I'm like on Twitter or something. Like I'll see a tweet and then I get distracted by another tweet. And so the fact that I can go, to your website and there's just, it's all right there. I don't have to go looking anywhere else. I don't have to go searching. It's just all right there in front of me. And I can, check out all of the content that I want to check out, is awesome. And I think that that's really helpful for a lot of people because people are busy. Like we don't have time. Everybody's got, a couple jobs and they got kids and they've got all this other stuff going on. So being able to go to one website and find a bunch of different content from multiple content creators is really helpful. It really is.
And it links, and thank you, and it does. That's Independent Left News. That automatically updates at noon Eastern every day. It pulls content from 150 different sources, and it links right to those sources. So we're not trying to take content or to take eyeballs or clicks or views. We want to get those views over to them and connect you to those sites, and we encourage people to support and amplify all those sites as well. In addition, then every day I try to put out a curated list through our Substack, Leftist.today, and that is just like the top 5 or 6 articles out of the 150 and top 5 or 6 videos out of the 150, 100 or 75 or so that get pulled from all the different channels that we pull from. Just like a sampling. Here's some of the things that I'm checking out that I think you guys might want to check out too. So that's kind of how it evolved. And then it was, holy crap, from these 150 stories a week that I'm amplifying in these top 5, 6 updates, I noticed that there's 7, 8, 10 stories out of every week that people really aren't talking about much. So that's why I created a show with Reef called How Did We Miss That? And we have fun doing that and covering some stories and, again, amplifying content creators, which is what I do. And really, it's mostly about writers and article writers and actual journalists and opinion writers, not about video creators or about pundits necessarily, but people that are actually putting words onto the screen and saving to files and publishing. And we're a big fan of the written word still. It's really important. And it does have a ton of influence over what people are saying and thinking.
100%. That journalists are my people. I am not a journalist. I will never pretend to be a journalist. I will never claim that title. That is not who I am. I have an unbelievable amount of respect for legitimate journalists. I'm not talking about, the mainstream media paid propagandists, the Chris Cuomos and the Anderson Coopers. That's not who I'm talking. Those people are not journalists. I'm talking about people. Actors. Yes, I'm talking about people like Vanessa Beeley, who we just spoke to last hour, or like Alex Rubinstein, who we'll be speaking to next hour. People like Julian Assange, who put out 100% authenticated, verifiable source documentation. I'm talking about those kinds of journalists, the people like John Pilger and Craig Murray and Chris Hedges, and yes.
Robbie Yeager and Whitney Webb and people from Off Guardian and Donnie from Sludge and Jonathan K. Cook and Mohammed Al-Mazi. Again, I can name an entire roster. Again, because I follow these people like I used to follow sports. It's so funny. I used to know all the statistics about basketball and baseball and who was on what team and went to what. And now I know who writes for what outlet and who's the strong one. And Hamilton Nolan in these times. Amazing writing from that dude.
Yes.
The rest of it in these
I'm
times.
laughing. I'm laughing because my husband makes fun of me all the time because I don't fangirl over like celebrities or athletes. I fangirl over journalists, and he makes fun of me for that.
Writers,
so that's why I'm laughing. Yes.
Judd Lagoon, popular information, outstanding. You know, he reports on a lot of January 6th, but he follows the corporate money and the corporate hypocrisy. AT&T says we're not going to fund anybody that did the January 6th stuff, and then turns out they're funding them left, right, and sideways. I want to know about that kind of stuff, and people need to know about that kind of stuff. You know,
yes, and they make that
really
kind of information.
Journalism.
Yes, and they make that kind of information really difficult to find. You have to legitimately put in work to find those types of people, to find those types of journalists and their work. Unless you're in our circles, like the people that we all kind of know, like we know who we go to and all, but like the average everyday American person would never be exposed. They've never heard of Muhammad Almazy or Kevin Gostola, or, you know what I mean? Like and that's intentional. And so the algorithm, buries those people in their work, which is why I mean, on this show and on my other shows, I've been trying to use that to elevate those people and to, because again, I love journalists. I really, really do. Actual, real, gritty journalists, people who are out there actively seeking for the truth, no matter the consequences. Those are people that I hold in very high regard. People like Vanessa, people like Eva Bartlett, these are people who go to the locations in which they're reporting on. I love those kinds of people. So I think that what you're doing at Indie Left, Fiorella, yes. I mean, Fiorella Isabel from the Convo Couch is a good friend of mine. She's also part of MCSC Network, which I'm also a part of. Shout out to Nico for bringing us all together. I think that's really important. I think that's really vitally important. It really is.
Agreed.
I had no idea that you were still like a TYT majority report kind of person all the way up to 2020. I had no idea.
I was. Wow. I got a closet full of T-shirts. It's embarrassing as shit. You have no idea.
Oh yeah.
I got pictures of my kids wearing them. It's really bad. It's really bad. Anyway, so what I also covered and was inspired by. So back last year, about a year ago, I was contacted by this kid called Shane, and you know Shane from KRTD and now Kerberos Media. So Shane calls me and he says, I want you, first of all, to be my advisor, and I want you to be on my advisory board. Then he tells me about this event that he's putting on called the U.S. Solutions Summit. I'm like, wow, this is cool. You got Steph Zamorano, you got Howie Hawkins, and you got Shahid to all commit to this event. Let me see who I can get. And we started to book some people, and we had Pasta and Fee from the Convo Couch, and Franco and Daniel and Kit from Hardlands, and Ron Placone, and all these people showed up, and we got Jimmy Dore there. It was a great event. We were also inspired at the time by FHL and what they had been putting together, and activism in general. So we really started covering protests and giving a lot of credence and light to protests that are not getting coverage in the mainstream media. For example, we started Force the Vote. We were supporting Hinkle talking to Jimmy Dore about, I'm going to Washington to protest and sit at AOC's doorstep.
I was at that protest.
I know you were. March 17th, Action for Assange, D.C. I know you were there, too. I covered it, and I did a special newsletter just for the Assange worldwide protests that happened that day. All right. Then April 11th, there was another action, and that was for the 2-year anniversary that he had been taken from the embassy. Then we had the U.S. Solutions Summit happen in May. Then we had March for Medicare for All happen over the summer. General Strike Summit. Again, we've been there covering and supporting and amplifying the Student Debt Summit that actually IndieNews.Network, which we haven't even gotten to yet, but IndieNews.Network put that on. And then just a couple of weeks ago, the National Medicare March for Medicare for All people put on an entire stream for the weekend. We co-hosted that on our YouTube channel and co-sponsored and helped with amplification and tweeting and all that stuff too. It was And
those are so obviously, I mean, I'm biased here because I am an activist, but activists are my 3 groups of people. I say this all the time: journalists, whistleblowers, and activists. Those are my people. Those are who I want to support. Yeah, those are my people. And you're right. Protests do not get coverage. In particular, it's disappointing. They don't get very much coverage in independent media circles, which is really disappointing. It's really frustrating frustrating to me because, we spend a lot of time. Organizing is not easy. I'm not complaining. I'm not, but organizing is not easy. And so to put all this effort into trying to organize an event for something like Julian Assange, and then to reach out to, different independent media personalities and content creators, trying to get them to help you boost the event or to maybe come to the event or whatever. And to, have a difficult time doing that is really frustrating to me. It's gotten better, I will say. And maybe it's just because I'm really, really annoying. So I think a lot of these people will just boost it just to shut me up, which is fine. I don't mind that. But yeah, it is getting a lot easier. I will say that people like Lee Camp, Max Blumenthal, really Gray Zone in general, they always come out to our events, and I'm really appreciative of them for that. But I mean, just thank you for covering protests, because that's not something that a lot of people are doing.
No, it's not enough of us. And again, thank you, guys. Thank you to everyone that's out there doing it and being the activists to try to get everybody riled up and to spread that awareness, because it's so vital to. Otherwise, people just go back to sleep and we end up at brunch. It's just a mess.
Yes.
So I realized, that I couldn't do this all alone. So originally I was doing this once a day. I was updating some things at the end of the day, and then we spread out to twice a day. We were putting out 2 newsletters and 2 Substacks every day. It was just out of control. Yeah. And then we were doing a show on top of it. It was I was losing my mind. And then we decided about Thanksgiving that I'm going to cut that back to once a day. We're going to make it noon, and then it gives me all day to do the update. But also because after the summer, I saw all these different amazing small content creators and recognized that we could the collective power of us together is a lot greater than each of us individually. So I contacted each one of them, and we knew each other because I had been sharing their stuff in my newsletters anyway. They had already been part of Independent Left News. They'd already been included in Leftist.today, and I share their articles and their videos on Instagram and on Twitter. I had some of them on auto tweet for every single one of their videos. So when I contacted them, they knew who I was. I'd been on a couple of their shows even. Said, look, we can all kind of put our heads together and collaborate and put together and become a network, kind of like MCSC did, where we're all independent. We all have our own channels. We have a shared YouTube channel, which becomes a backup. So if we lose our channel, we still have somewhere to stream to. B, we're going to be able to do network streams and collaborate and do all kinds of things with other networks, as well as internally, and have one-on-ones or marathon streams like we did for the student debt thing. We can help each other with technology. We can help each other with guests on each other's shows, and help each other discover each other's fans, friends, and audiences, which is the whole idea. And we're all small, so there's no ego here, really. And the idea is that we amplify each other, and we lift each other. So we share when somebody's live there. If you put it into our group, well, everybody else is going to share that around too. And it's been amazing to see all these people come together. We need more of that to work with everybody. Yeah.
Yes. No, we need more of that.
Yes,
I think that we're starting to see that. I think that, we have RBN now, Revolutionary Blackout Network. We have MCSC, which I'm a part of. Nico House created MCSC. And Nico is one of my favorite people in the whole wide world because he has a relatively decent following. He's doing pretty good for himself, and that he still reaches back and pulls other people up. I mean, he came on Facts on the Ground, the show that I host with Jesse Zerwell. He came on that show. I think we had like 300 subscribers. There was no ego, and he has a right to have ego. Like, he's pretty big. He's working at RT now and all this stuff. So but he definitely has always been really all about like reaching back and helping other people. But you're right, we do need this kind of community. I mean, I think Nick Cruz from RBN, that's what he said. We need this community of independent content creators, because as we're seeing it like today with Hardlands Media being censored yet again, there's strength in numbers, and so we can come together across our networks and across our channels and stuff to like stand together and to fight back against the censorship when it happens. So I want to talk about this more with you after the break. We do have to take just a quick break here, but we're going to have more with Indy right after this here on TNT Radio.
TNT Radio's Patrick Henningsen.
What government says filters through media, and what media says filters into the mouths and minds of government officials. And then that reflects back onto the public. And then it doesn't stop there. A lot of people think that's it. Oh, I just won't tune into the media. I know a lot of intelligent people. They're sort of awake. They've somewhat red-pilled over the last few years. And they say, I don't watch any mainstream media. I don't own a TV. So I'm enlightened. And a lot of them aren't aware that the propaganda doesn't end there. There's another path in which it permeates. And this is through other people. And when we say other people, this is your peer group. So, and this is how consensus is actually formed.
Patrick Henningsen on today's News Talk, TNT Radio.
In many countries around the world, medical care is scarce. Countless millions have no access to safe surgery. Mercy Ships is there to help. Mercy Ships provides free surgeries for the thousands of those who are waiting for surgery at each port.
Mercy Ships is bringing services to countries that would otherwise never be able to access those services.
Find out how you can help by visiting our website at mercyships.org. That's mercyships.org.
The bushfire was so unpredictable, it was important to have a plan.
We stayed up to date with our phones and the radio. We knew it was coming.
I never thought it would actually happen. I'm glad we had a plan.
You have to prepare your property and your family.
And there was nothing we can
always had a plan.
We can all be bushfire ready. Do your 5-minute bushfire plan today.
This is today's News Talk Radio, TNTRadio.live.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to TNT Radio. I'm Misty Winston, your host for today. Joining me is my very good friend, Indy, who runs Independent Left News and all kinds of stuff. Very busy guy. You really are. Like your schedule your schedule rivals mine. So, before the break, we were talking about kind of the community that independent media and independent content creators are kind of building amongst ourselves, which I really cannot speak to the importance of more. It is, as we're seeing with the censorship that's really just running rampant, it's become like it really is mind-blowing what's happening right now. But the ability that we have to kind of come together and stand together, there is strength in numbers. And so when one of us is censored, we all fight back, we all stand up for each other. And I mean that wholeheartedly, even for people I disagree with. There are people who who despise me, who when they get censored, I speak out against it because it's the principle of it. So to me, it's been very encouraging to kind of witness the community that we're all kind of building. And I'm hoping that it continues to grow. I don't really see a whole lot of ego. Maybe I'm blind to it, but I don't really see a whole lot of ego involved in what we're doing.
No, not at all. Well, it depends on where. The legacy portion of it, I would say that there's some ego over trying to protect their income, trying to protect the audience base. And look, I think these people, and I don't fault them. They've been at this a long time. They've dedicated themselves. They don't have any, to a point, except that they want to protect their income base. I understand that to a point. And there's only a limited amount of time that people have every day to listen to, watch, and consume content. So they want to make sure that it's their content being consumed. Now, what they're doing in the process is trying to suppress and ignore and dismiss important voices. A lot of times it's voices of color that are on the rise, and it's smaller channels. Again, and you gave a shout out to Nico. I want to give a shout out to Nico for a couple of reasons. First off, his recognizing the importance and value of writers and writing and supporting people like Robbie Yeager to begin with, and bringing Robbie into MCSC. I just adore Robbie, and you and I have been two of Robbie's biggest champions, and I give you a ton of credit for all the amplification. I remember I still have the graphics from, was it Earth Day last year? We did a whole pitch, a whole push about the Colonial Pipeline that he's been so amazingly covering for so long already, and the spill that's happened there, and your efforts, again, as an activist to help raise awareness, and just got me kicked off the couch. Hey, can we make some graphics? Can we make some Adam, that would never have happened if you hadn't said something, if he hadn't been covering it, if you guys weren't part of MCSC. So again, shout out to Nico for that, for bringing people together, for recognizing smaller channels, and for continuing to stream as well. Again, I give the man a ton of credit. I know he's controversial. He says stuff I disagree with. He may like people I don't like. You know what? That's life. You know, that's
right.
But you give him credit for what he's done and man, what he's accomplished. And it's
Wait
still
a
just
second.
early. And
hold on a minute. Are you saying
I know,
that you can be friends
with
somebody that you don't agree with 100% of the time? Is that what you're saying to me right now? That's possible? What?
Okay, I know. It's a big
I know. We joke
secret.
Because for our listeners who are potentially not aware of the ridiculousness that is the online quote unquote left, which they're not really all that left. But there is a real divide where there are certain people who think that you cannot have conversations with, work with, whatever, with people who disagree with you on anything, which is ridiculous and infantile. And I don't subscribe to that way of thinking at all and never will. I am completely capable of having conversations with people that I don't agree with. This is not to say that all of those conversations will go well. Sometimes I get heated and sometimes I get, it might end up in a blow up fight. That's totally possible, but I'm not afraid to have conversations with people that I do not agree with. And I think that that's healthy. I think that's a good thing. We're not all going to
agree. A lot of gatekeeping. There's a lot of gatekeeping about who's good and who's bad and who you shouldn't be talking to because they don't believe in this or that, or they don't support that, even though they do, and they claim that they do, and everything they do says that they do. Their actions speak louder than their words, though their words align with those actions. And it's never good enough for them, and it makes some of us crazy, and therefore anyone that is aligned with them at all or supports them ends up on the canceled side as well. And cancel culture is rampant on the left as well amongst itself. And again, it's a self. We eat each other all day long. We cancel them, and our circle's been getting smaller and smaller. I know we've talked about this on Action for Assange. How we don't see the Facebook groups growing. We don't see the Twitter accounts really growing among outside the community, people that are already in alignment with what we're doing. We're not bringing in necessarily enough new people with our ideas. And why is that? I mean, part of it is the narrative management is so out of control, coming from the 15 corporate sources that control what everybody's talking about. Okay. Right. Again, it's Netflix and it's Disney Plus and it's Apple Plus and it's Hulu and it's Viacom and CBS and Comcast and News Corp. All these corporations are really controlling the narrative. Okay. And they're in concert with the administration and the tech companies, Facebook, Meta, Alphabet, all of them, there's a revolving door of employees to federal employees. So you see all of this happening. And again, that's why we have to build outside independent structures to break through all of that. Russell Brand is doing a phenomenal job of it. Jimmy Dore, much to everybody's chagrin, Russell Brand. Yeah. Russell Brand is doing How Did We Miss That? Better than I could do How Did We Miss That? I almost want to stop doing my show.
He just...
He does... And you did Facts on Friday, which is very similar to my show as well. I'm like, God, I can dock the ship now. I can stop doing my show because you guys are covering those kind of stories now.
Yeah.
And it makes it harder for me to find good stories.
It's important to find stories that aren't getting any coverage and cover them because it's happening. I mean, they love to throw the same 5 or 6 stories in your face, and there will also be the kind of dominating, theme of the week or whatever of the news cycle. And so like right now, everybody's talking about Ukraine. Not to say that that's not important. Yep. Obviously, we need to talk about Ukraine, but there are a lot of other things happening that are getting missed because everybody's focused on Ukraine. And so it's really important to find. But Russell Brand, I don't know if you saw his recent kind of rebuttal to the criticisms against him. It is brilliant. It is so really good. Just so brilliant. Good. It's so good. So good. And the criticisms against him are just ridiculous. Obviously on a much smaller scale, I get those criticisms too. I know Jimmy Dore gets them. I know Convo Couch gets them. And, it's this weird thing where, and you kind of mentioned like, why is the quote unquote left, which I genuinely hate labels. I'm really done kind of calling myself a leftist because most people who identify as left, I don't have anything in common with them. But I think that a lot of
just
this is
independent now.
Yes, but I think a lot of this is that it's this the left, quote unquote left, and I'm using that very loosely because I genuinely do not think most of these people who I'm speaking about right now are legitimate leftists in any sense of reality. But they are they become so full of themselves, and they're so condescending and self-righteous, and they look down their noses at anybody who they perceive to be less than or guilty of wrongthink or whatever. And it's the most just juvenile, infantile display of ridiculousness that I've ever seen, because, I get attacked on a regular basis because I'm willing to speak to people on the right. I am friends with people like Magnus. I'm friends with people like Olivia Rondeau. I'm friends with people like Reed Coverdale. I don't have, we disagree. We disagree on a lot of things, but I am still able to value their perspectives and value their friendship and recognize that we do have things in common. But I get attacked for that on a regular basis. And there are people who literally think that anybody to the right of Bernie Sanders is like a literal Nazi.
Red Brown. Come on, Red Brown. Now,
Red Brown. The Red Brown
right now, Discord. He goes, labels are bad, okay? That's Reed's favorite line. Labels are bad. TikTokers get info from State Department on Ukraine. So that was the other thing you wanted to point out.
Thank you for bringing up Ukraine, because the same people who have spent the last 2, 3, 4 years calling me a Nazi and calling me a fascist-adjacent Red Brown Alliance person, those people are now cheering on actual Nazis. Yes, they got punch a Nazi in their bio. And they're cheering on Ukrainian Nazis. It's just
that are saran wrapping people to polls, pulling down their pants and smacking their asses for stealing a loaf of bread. I mean, the stuff that's happening is absolutely beyond. Holy crap! Yeah.
So my message to people on the right, I really want to get this across. If you are on the right, please hear me right now. That is not the left. Those people are not the left. They are loud, and they may if you think that somebody like an AOC or Nancy Pelosi is that's not the left. To me, the people who I really do hate the labels because I feel like they're always co-opted and used to divide, but that's not what the left stands for. The left is anti-war, anti-imperialism, anti-censorship, anti-surveillance, all of that stuff. We have a lot more in common than you think. And so there's this very, concentrated effort to make you think that we don't have those things in common. And I think a lot of this stuff from the quote unquote left, that's intentional, and it's meant to push people farther apart. And so not to say that all of them are ops or whatever. I think a lot of them are genuine people who just bought into the bullshit. You know what I mean? But yeah, just my message to the right.
Pro-cannabis, pro-personal freedoms as well.
Pro-guns. I'm pro-gun. That's, it's not the left.
Some are, some aren't.
Yeah, well, I mean, I am. I'm saying me
personally. I'm for freedom. Yes, freedom to own one and be responsible with it. Yes, responsible ownership, sure.
Yes, but I just there's this real concerted effort to get people on the left to think that people on the right are all irredeemable racists, and then to convince people on the right that all leftists are these snobby, condescending pricks who want nothing to do with you. That's just not the case.
Social justice warriors. Yep.
Yes.
The SJWs, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with fighting for social justice. I support gay rights. I think gay people should, you know what I mean? I support all of that stuff, but it's not that whole stereotype is way off.
Yeah, other than wanting healthcare, there's not very much alignment anymore. It's kind of sad. It's like they kind of follow the Democratic Party line of corporatism and follow whatever the narrative is. Again, so blue and yellow flags all day long. Don't question the narrative at all. Look at what happened. Yeah. Oh my God. We covered the other night, Reef and I, on How Do We Miss That? We talked about Jordan Schachtel's article about Brett Renaud and the narrative that was crafted immediately after it was reported that he was killed in the car. As it turns out, it was small arms fire. It wasn't a shell or a mortar, and there were no Russians in the area, but he was killed by the Russians for sure. 100%. It was Putin. It was a shell. And from AFB to the Associated Press to Reuters to every major outlet, again, you had a statement from Boris Johnson within 1 hour. How the hell does that happen?
Right.
The whole thing was a narrative that was crafted, okay? Yes. And somebody said in the comments, like, I hope it doesn't turn out to be good old Shoe. And I was like, oh my God, that was whoever wrote that, just because it was right out of Wag the Dog. My bullshit detector was screaming. And the minute that they posted it up to that more, I said, this is a story being crafted, because within 1 hour, the entire world had the exact same story and nobody questioned it.
Yeah, no, and that's how it works. And there's no question. There's no questioning. Nobody questions anything. They're just like, oh, yep, that's obviously that's true. And it's bizarre to me. I was just talking about this with Vanessa. People who lived through Iraq are just mindlessly accepting the current narrative without any. And it's what is happening, really? And now, if you, really, God forbid, post anything different, if you post anything that's that disputes that questions that, you're losing your channel. They're taking you down. It happened to Vanessa. I mean, she got taken down by Twitter. It's why I'm following her on Telegram now. And again, we're playing platform whack-a-mole until look, we're always going to try to be one step ahead of the cops. And that's one thing, it's really funny, because when I was into sports, I had once written into Jim Rome, who had done a call-in show, and I was watching it on that night. It's like, what are you going to do about all these steroid cheats? And he's like, you know what? The cheaters are always going to be one step ahead of the cops. And in a way, that's kind of how they see us, is we're cheating the system. We're getting around their narrative management. We're always going to be one step ahead, because we're always going to find a new platform, but we're always going to have to stay one step ahead and keep searching for those new platforms, keep expanding, keep trying. Gilded is a new Discord alternative already that some people are looking towards. Okay, everybody's talking about Matrix by Element, which is an open source messaging communication platform. How do we stay one step ahead at all times, so that we're playing that platform whack-a-mole, but we're not getting hit and we don't lose communication with everybody around us? That's what they're trying to do. That's what they're doing in canceling people off of Twitter. All right, they canceled Luis, for example. Luis he's a green guy, like, once in a while he trolls and he posts up some links to things that he questions. Next thing you know, he's completely gone from Twitter. His voice is erased, eliminated, and he can't set up any more accounts. And it's like, he's not going to bother, because why bother when you're just going to get knocked off anyway? And all the connections, all the friends. By the way, catch Luis on IndieNews.Network stream on Wednesday night. We're going to do a collaborative roundtable for everyone in the network's invited. I think there's about 13 or 14 people that are showing up, and we have a special guest also that's going to be arriving, hopefully, Jesse Jett. Yay! So Jesse Jett was just on the show yesterday.
I know that. Yeah. So was Kit. I just I was talking to Kit Saturday night, and we were hyping his interview on your show. So excited for that. And hopefully some of the INN people will end up soon on Hardlands Media. And again, we're going to be doing more with MCSC folks. We've already been, I know Reeves had you on his show a couple times, and I think Fee's up soon, and you guys are both going to end up on Friends of Indie Left, I'm sure, in the next 6-8 weeks. I'm only doing that.
You keep telling me that. I'm waiting for my invitation, sir.
Still
waiting.
Again, so I've done 5. Okay, and during Black History Month, I wanted to interview women of color, which is exactly what I did. I got to interview Afeni, and I got to talk to the Banks sisters. But you are right up next on the list. You know what? I'll just invite you right now. My next Friends of Indie Left, I want it to be Misty. So we'll work on exactly what the
you guys heard is. It here. You heard it here first.
Yep.
Don't let.
Yep. You're going to be the next one. I'm not doing another. Yes. I'm not doing another one until I get Misty on the show next. Okay. So
good. Sold.
So I started that about earlier this year, and it was just because I've also been kind of consulting with, and it's a way for kind of like what I'm doing here, a way to talk about your channel, a way to learn a little bit more about you and your personality, a little bit what you're doing when you're not streaming. How did we get to having this conversation here today? And it's just been fascinating. I actually do plug in a webcam and I turn on, so you'll be able to see me and talk to me like face to face almost during it. Nice. I don't turn it on for anybody else, but at least I think it definitely adds something to the conversation when we can see each other and really talk. Sure. So that's really what I've been working on is, again, building a collaborative network of streamers and supporting independent streamers that are coming up. So, for example, Daryl, Black in the Empire, he's part of our network. He really hasn't gone streaming yet much. He's done a couple of things with RBN, but he's not really comfortable with the tech. And Brief are like, look, we'll help you with that. We will get you set up with the restream stuff. You plug into the network stuff. We'll help you with the amplification. And if need be, one of us can probably produce the show remotely from our OBS on our thing. And basically all you have to do is look into the camera and talk and give your takes, which are absolute fire. Okay.
Yes. No, he's great. If you're not following him on Twitter, you should be. Black in the Empire. He is fantastic. His name's Daryl. He's been on, I don't remember which show he's been on, but he's been on my shows. 1, 2 of them, 3 of them. I don't know which ones. I can't remember. They all blur together at this point. But yeah, I think that we need so much. And that's why I encourage people all the time. Like, even if you're somebody like Daryl, who isn't maybe, and I'm not good at the tech stuff either. Without my Sleepy Josh, I wouldn't be able to do what I do. Who Sleepy Josh is a guy that helps us run MCSC stuff. He's he's like the best tech ninja on planet Earth. But yeah, like I think we all need to come together and yes, buy him a cup of coffee. Go to Buy Me a Coffee. I think it's at Abort You, ABORTU. And you can buy him a coffee. He's 100% worth it. He's fantastic. Seriously, one of my favorite people on earth.
Great.
But I think that that's one of my favorite things about the kind of indie media community that we've if I need graphics, I can go to Warren and I can say, hey, can you make me a graphic? Because I'm not good at that stuff. Where if I need, you know what I mean? Like, we can all kind of lean on each other and like find each other's strengths and weaknesses, and really kind of help, just help each other, just really, reach out to each other, boost each other, support each other. Like you said, retweeting people's shows and events and all of that stuff. Like, that's huge. And being able to have like this massive group of people coming together to, help each other out, support each other. I think the support is really amazing. The way that we all encourage each other. When I got this job, everybody was, the flood of support was awesome. Like, it's really great to have that kind of community around you. And I think that, it's really, it gives me a little bit of hope to see what we're building. And I hope that we can maintain that level of camaraderie.
Yeah, same. And just even the experience in working with different platforms. It's one of the reasons why I do what I do with all these different things. I've been branching out and doing Telegram. We streamed live to Telegram on Sunday night because they just enabled that. So, and it's more so that I can then teach and help everybody else as they come to me and they say, so tell me about what it's like streaming live television. Oh, it's kind of a pain, but it's not that hard. You plug this in, you do that. And I've got like the back and forth, and I've actually done the work to know what each of these things are. Yeah. And I'm not just giving advice on what you maybe should do. It's here's what I've done. Here's how Reef has helped me plug in with all the audio and run Jesse Jet music before my stream and add that element to it, and a scrolling ticker at the bottom, and how he basically turned OBS into a TV studio. It's just remarkable what he's able. And he learned all that stuff a year ago for the U.S. Solutions Summit. Totally self-taught. Amazing stuff. Yeah. Stream Deck stuff, and it's just been a blast to learn, to do, to help everybody else. I mean, again, shout out to Sabby Sabs for all she's been doing and putting together. She organized the Women's Summit, and she's got her monthly women's stream that she's been doing. I know she did one on Sunday. She was the first guest on Friends of Indie Left, and Discords. She also recognized, just kind of like you, and I know that you had a Discord for a while, but she has a server where. Well, again, and this is something we can talk to you about if you ever want to get into it, okay? And the reason why, and this is what I saw initially about a year ago, and Richard Medhurst really opened my eyes to it, and shout out to Richard. God, I love that guy. Almost 2 years ago. And Mona, you mentioned Sleepy Josh. Mona, I love Mona. She introduced me to half the world. She introduced me to Franco and to Kit, which was then the gateway to everybody. Right. But Richard had a Discord, and it was a great way to keep his community connected when he wasn't streaming. And it really built friendships and camaraderie. And the people that I met and connected with in that Discord early on are friends that I'm still talking to this day. 4 of them are members of this network. I mean, that's how close we all became. And I saw the value in that to a streamer. And so I started contacting some of the other streamers in the space that, hey, Katie Halper, you don't have a Discord. Why don't you get set up with something like that? I'll set it up for you. So I did, and the Vanguard and Hardlens. You have a Discord, but it's kind of abandoned. Nobody's really doing anything with it. We can automate so that your videos automatically populate. So any one of your fans, whenever something's new published to Hardlens Media or Chicago Corner, it's all things Hardlens. And that's what we did with Discords. It's a little difficult to keep out the trolls, but you find some moderators and some good fans and members of your community, and they kind of police that stuff amongst themselves. But I still see it as a valuable tool for a streamer or a content creator to stay connected to their audience.
Which is huge.
And we're going to build one
so
out
important.
for INN. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, so important.
Especially
I think
in the censorship world,
yes.
the deplatforming world. This is a way between Discord and Telegram. And again, you're going to have to be diverse and spread out to multiple things. I love that Odyssey backs up to YouTube automatically. So if you go to YouTube, it's going to Odyssey. But I still stream live directly to Odyssey. It's a bit of a challenge to figure that out, but I can now teach people, how do you do that? And let's work with Odyssey to make that a little bit easier. And I can actually talk to the people to platforms because they're awesome as well. They'll actually talk to you. Amazing.
I know, right? It's not like some automated system like YouTube. You know what I mean? You actually get like a human being that you can speak to. And I think that, I hope Odyssey doesn't change. I hope that people like the guys at Rockfin don't change. I hope that they always remain, anti-censorship, fingers crossed. But I think that you're right. I think we do need to really diversify. We need to be, and I'm really terrible about this. I'm not all that tech savvy, so I don't do all of the other, I need to, I just don't. But yeah, I think it's really important to do that. But we only have like 5 minutes left, and I want to make sure you can talk about IndieNews.Network because you have a lot of amazing content creators on there. So tell us just briefly a little bit about some of the content creators that you have on there and all of that good stuff, because it's really, you guys have really done a great job so far.
Wow. So, of course, Indie Left News, Leftist.today is part of that. But Robert Durden, the Political Fight Club. Okay, we've got Reef and Reefer After Dark and Uncle Warren with Extra Booyah. Okay, I'm just going to go through the list because there's literally so many of them. And a lot of these guys you probably never heard of because they've only started doing a show within the last year and a half. Yeah. But they're hilarious and they've got fire takes and they're absolute killers. And they know what they're talking about. They're following the right kind of journalists that are reporting on truth that aren't affected by their paychecks, that aren't affected by advertisers. So they're helping to amplify the content creators that are trying to get the message out of what's really happening out there. Okay, you've got a Blue Moon Red Wine, Lucy. She's beautiful and she's terrific and she's fire. And you've got Angel Rivera. He's part of our network too, and he's been doing some great takes. The Handsome Cynic and Yeti Jesus, and he just started a show called The Breadlines. He's a baker in Canada, inspired by all he's been seeing here. And hey, I can turn on a camera and do this too, just like Rob Durden does. He does it from his iPhone. It's remarkable. And Noli D, the activist extraordinaire, the Erin Brockovich of our day, the woman who's out there killing herself for everybody else. And she's doing it from a wheelchair. She's an absolute beast. I love her to death. She's terrific. Love her face. Todd, Be the Change. He's out in Oregon and he's a grad student and he's a new father and he's an amazing gardener. He grows these incredible vegetables and he's a communist and he reads Marx and amazing stuff on his streams. Love that guy. Again, we've got Daryl, Black in the Empire on Twitter. He's going to be coming on doing more stuff. The Dissident, who writes Substacks, fire Substacks, talking a lot about censorship, a lot about Russia, a lot about narrative management. He's had a couple of things. He wrote a thing during the General Strike Summit about Hassan Piker that really went viral, had about 10,000 views on there. A lot of people were excited about that. And how could I forget the wonderful, beautiful Tara Reid, who was also a guest on your show, INN member.
Love her.
We've been giving her all the support in the world that we possibly can. And I don't want to leave out Tatami, Tatami's Diary. I've been watching Tatami for a year and a half. I think she found my channel. We kind of discovered each other. I didn't realize she was streaming, and I watched her, and she's fantastic. What amazing takes. And she figures out a way to tie stories into what's happening today. Love it. Millennial Splaining, Bess Godin. I think you've spoken to her maybe or been on Millennial Splaining. She's awesome. Love her. And then Kobe, the Pro Peace Report, and he's done some streaming. Oh, see that? and we're already going out.
They're playing you out, Indy.
IndependentLeft.news. Woohoo! Everybody hook up with Misty. So subscribe to @Sarcasm Stardust. She's a badass. She's a CrossFit mom. She is an activist. She's humble and she's real as fuck, and we love her to death. Thank you for having me on, Misty. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And I would love to have you back. Thanks for coming on. We'll be right back, guys, right after this break here on TNT Radio.